Thanks very much, and good morning. Are we all feeling radical this morning? Yeah, great. Okay. Well, the radical thing I'm going to do is I have a prepared script which I will read the majority of, if that's okay, because I'm keen to make sure I hit all the points I'm supposed to hit, but also I might make a few personal points at the end, if that's all right. But I'll be as quick as I possibly can. And Sarah, if I go over time, be sure to throw something at me. I don't mind that. So just to make the point that this is a time of major change in the delivery of disability services in this country. We have embarked on a transformation programme that will put the citizen at the heart of everything we do. In all aspects of disability services, the emphasis is changing from a system which was concerned with inputs, outputs and cost efficiency to a model of service which is focused on achieving outcomes, ensuring quality and measuring cost effectiveness. Meeting the needs of the individual is at the heart of our disability services. We are at the start of a journey, migrating from a segregated, group-delivered service to a person-centred and individually chosen supports model. A model that is designed to enable the individual to live a normal life in society and give support for community-based living with maximum independence and choice. Implementation of the value for money and policy review of disability services will mean a seismic shift in how disability services are funded and provided, shifting choice and control from professionals and administrators to where it rightfully belongs, with the individual with a disability and his or her family. Services and supports will be delivered with greater efficiency, transparency and accountability. A number of demonstration projects have already been or are in the course of being implemented to support this commitment. Just over 100 of these demonstration projects have been grant-aided by a non-profit organisation, the GNO Trust, with funding provided by the HSE. And they will provide a substantial contribution towards the transition to the person-centred supports model. We're here today to hear about the success of AT's innovative project, which was launched in 2010, a direct payments model which gives people with disabilities that are involved in this project, also known as leaders, real choice and control over their own services. We will hear from some of the leaders today regarding their experiences and how their model is empowering them to take control of their lives and to actively pursue their ambitions. One of the key objectives of this government is the reform of our disability services so as to provide the best possible outcomes for all people. My colleagues, Minister Varadkar and Minister Lynch in the Department of Health, are committed to moving towards an individualised budgeting model and are supportive of the projects which are exploring different ways of doing this. The move towards the development and implementation of a national individualised budgeting framework raises legal and practical issues, requires careful consideration and planning, and will take some time before it can be rolled out. The next step will be to evaluate the various forms individualised budgeting may take and identify the solution or combination of solutions best suited to this country. I'd like to commend AT on their excellent work to date, on their engagement with government and on their vision to make independent living and direct payments a reality. Just to make it a personal point, if I might, because as Sarah has said, only a few months in this job, and I fully admit the area that you are engaged in is not an area that I have a huge history with, but I do know what a sense of inequality means. And Sarah mentioned my work in the direct provision area. I'm involved now in the whole area of commemorations. I made this point to Martin before, and we had a discussion about it, about the decade of commemorations, the 1916 Rising, maybe the restatement of what we believe in as a country. And if we look at the 1916 Rising or the proclamation of the Republic or what happened 100 years ago as a history lesson, then we've really lost an opportunity. Because deep inside that document, if you read it, the proclamation, it commits to giving equal rights and equal opportunities to all the citizens of Ireland. And we have to really have a long and deep and profound discussion with ourselves as a country to what are our ambitions. Do we want to be the best of the country in the world to do business? Or do we want something a little bit more profound that actually means something for the next 100 years? There's words in here like empowerment, And I sometimes think that certain sections of our society don't realise how powerful they are. But they've been told or given, I don't know, been told or made feel as if they are disempowered or don't have power. You know, the reason I got involved in politics, I spent 11 years teaching in a disadvantaged school. It's some of the most incredible children I've ever come across. But they were made to feel as if they weren't powerful. And inequality, what it does to you, it gets inside your bones and it's very difficult to shake it. So let's not have a country of lesser people. Let's not have a country of disempowered people. Let's not make our ambition to be the best of the country in the world to do business. Let's make a country which actually lives up to that ideal of having equal rights and equal opportunities for all our citizens. Thanks very much. I hope you have a great day.
Okay, I think we have roving mics, do we? And we have a hand straight up.
I'm Jonathan Hanna of Greater Dublin Independent Living, and you know, Minister, in terms of during the summer I read all the manifestos when it came to local government, and the Labour Party, which you're a member, had the biggest on in terms of what they were going to do for people with disabilities when it came to local government. Now, I know a lot has changed in the past 6 months, and what is very interesting is that in the Fine Gael local election manifesto there was no mention of disability whatsoever or equality. Now, they were not the only party, but at the time it's really surprising when it comes to a government party. So thank you, that's all I have to say.
Okay, John, it's more a comment, is it, than a question? Yeah. Okay, we'll leave you off the hook for a minute, but you might respond to it. We'll take this question at the front.
Hello, I welcome the fact that you said that it should be a person-centred system in Ireland. I can clearly say to you it isn't. We have all these policies and procedures and documents out. It isn't. For instance, a team meeting was held for myself personally recently. We put on the board to the HSC a few things. Here we go. Wheelchair, no. Key worker, no. Social worker, no. Psychologist, no. Physiotherapist, no. That's person-centred care. There is there's a saint in the room at the moment, and if it wasn't for him, I think I would be 10 feet under, and I will name him, Mark Blake Knox. But this is no way to treat people at the end of their lives. I'm 62. I've been through hell and back for now about 6-7 years of dislocation, relocation with no support whatsoever, either from the Minister's office, that is the Minister for Health, the Taoiseach's office, the local area HSC, and my twin sister and I have not the time to be bitching and begging for basic care with a neurodegenerative disorder. And I come here today to try and get out of the grips of what I think is a dysfunctional service of the HSE. And I hope I can take back some control, because you would have seen me 10 foot under if it wasn't for the support of Mark and the disability advocate, but certainly not the HSE.
Thank you for your comment. Sorry, I don't know your name.
Anne Kennedy.
Anne. Thanks, Anne. Sir.
My name is Dr. Margaret Kennedy. My background is in disability and child protection. I'd just like to tell the Minister that, yes, we do like the phrases person-centred, and we do like the phrases individual should be at the heart of disability services, but that's not actually the reality. I'm just wondering if you can give us any indication when the human rights for disabled people is going to be ratified and fully implemented, because we've been languishing without a human rights, a flag, really. We don't have it, and I think that's holding up a lot of people, and I think we need it, and very urgently.
Minister, the one question I'd be interested in is you talked about this national individualised budget framework, terrible jargon, but very important if it happens. Do you have any idea of a time frame for that, of when people could expect to see that framework? But maybe you'll deal with the other one first.
On the Convention for on the rights to people with disabilities, that's a real frustration for many people in this sector, because it feels as if we're lagging behind. I think there's very few countries who haven't ratified it, but the reason why we haven't ratified it is because we do things differently in Ireland, because other countries ratify it and just don't implement it. And there's lots of countries, internationally developing countries, who will ratify a convention and it has no real effect. But what we do is we want to update legislation, update the outmoded language within legislation. We have to work on the capacity bill. We have so I think certainly within 12 months, I'm hoping that we'll be in a position to ratify the convention. But the point is that when we ratify it, it's going to have real meaning and real effect. Within 12 months, we're hoping. We're hoping so. Because that will mean that, but as I said, work on the capacity bill. And other outmoded language that's in other bits of legislation that needs to be tidied up as well. But the real reason, it's not through lack of action. I know it might look like it is, but the reason is that when Ireland ratifies something, it has real and material effect. Sometimes when other countries do, they do it for the sake of ratification, but it actually doesn't have any effect. On the timeline, I have to come back and get a realistic answer for you, because I know the timeline on the convention. I know you want some definite times on that one, but I don't have them, unfortunately. The question at the back in terms of different parties' manifestos and that, I think it was more of a comment than a question. To say his frustration about how the HSE has dealt with her. I'll take those comments on. I'm here to listen, really. I really am, and I appreciate there's a lot of frustration. But I think now we're in a space where we can actually start thinking about improvements and changing people's mentality when it comes to dealing with this sector.
Any other questions from the floor? Do you have a question here? Yeah, Minister.
My name is Eugene Callan from LinkedIn with Centre for Independent Living, but really it's a question around the movement in of the for-profit providers in service provision and in tendering for contracts to. So it seems to be moving from the voluntary sector. Really, there's a big move into the cutthroat for-profit companies moving in, and I think the experience now of some people with disability is that they're not being given a choice in service provider. They're being told this is the company who's going to be providing your service, and what's driving it is not the quality of the service, is the cost per hour or per half hour. I just wonder if the Minister would bring back or would have any comment on kind of counterbalancing that drive for the cheapest, meanest service, against balancing that with other measures such as quality and quality of service and people's happiness with the service that they're receiving.
Okay.
Thanks, Eugene. I think when you're talking about costs, I think we have to be, have a different maybe perspective on the costs of inequality, and the long-term costs of disempowering people and belittling people. And I think my perspective would be that, in terms of cost efficiencies, it's an awful lot more expensive in the long run to have a section of our society who feel alienated, marginalised, unrepresented, belittled. That's much more expensive, long term, than having proper investment into empowering people. So when we talk about the economic cost of equality, people always say, well, equality is very, very expensive, and in all different sectors, not just in this sector, but in be it any sort of rights or areas where people feel that they're not being properly represented or looked after. So the cost benefit analysis of the type of support that you're talking about we have to, as a country, I would feel, this might sound like a very woolly statement, but I don't believe it is, because the economic costs of, as I say, an unequal society, the economic costs of having people on the margins who don't feel on the inside, are much more long-term and much more expensive. And that has to be at the heart of our decision-making, and I hope it is.